All right, and welcome into the Betting Pros College Football Show. It is a beautiful November afternoon following the release of the first college football playoff rankings, and today we make our picks and predictions for Week 11 of the season. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock, and I'm joined by a guy looking as fresh as ever today, Terrell Furman Jr. Happy November, dude.
Yeah, hey, happy November. Happy college football playoff time. You know what? I'm here. I had to take accountability. Rough week last week. Very rough week. A lot of things. The ball did not bounce our way. And to this point, to this day, I am still trying to figure out how I did not cash Duke plus 21 with the 1-point game in the fourth quarter. I have no idea how that bet didn't hit. If there was a bet that I could have told you I would have lost, and you told me I had a 1-point game with Duke in the fourth quarter versus Miami, I would have told you it wasn't that one. So, yeah, but shout out to the YouTube Shorts guys, because Diego Pavia, another outright win. He's a dog.
Let's go. We're also joined by a man who's getting back on the saddle himself today. Noted Texas Longhorn fan, noted Aggie hater as well, Scott Bogman. What's up, man? Have you recovered from a massive Tuesday in the sports world?
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, the everything that Terrell said is correct. The stuff that I got right on this show, I didn't put on my best bet show, and I got all that stuff wrong pretty much. After going 6-0, 5-1, down to 1-6. So you will be humbled if you keep gambling. It is going to happen, of course. And I didn't put that Miami cover on my best bet sheet. So it did cover, right? That is exactly why it happened.
That's ridiculous.
So I picked the under in Ole Miss and Arkansas because Arkansas had been playing great defense and Ole Miss had not been clicking on offense. And they scored 94 points. So sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. And we were the bug last week, but we're going to be the windshield this week. It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely, and thanks to everyone who rides with us, win or lose, each week. The easiest way to support us is to like this video if you enjoy this type of content, plus subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. And before we jump in, I did want to remind everyone about the BP Discord. Looking to up your game in sports betting? Join our exclusive sports betting Discord community at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers who provide free picks for the NBA, the NFL, MLB, NHL, player props, live betting, and more, but now you can also participate in our weekly community picks, cast your vote, and see how your picks stack up against the experts and track your success. Now let's go ahead, guys. Let's jump into the Week 11 slate. Let's get it running wide open here on Saturday at noon with Florida in Austin to battle the number 5 Texas Longhorns. This line has moved just a half point, with Texas now favored by 21.5 points. BP projections think that is way too big of a line, and that should be closer to 16.5. This is despite DJ Lagway getting carted off last week. They're now turning to walk-on Aiden Warner at quarterback for the Gators. Meanwhile, it took the bye week for finally Texas to get right here, as both wide receiver Isaiah Bond and safety Andrew Mabuka are practicing as of Monday. With that said, Bogman, are we really about to lay over 3 touchdowns with your Texas Longhorns?
I mean, I'm not going to do it. I am wavering on the side, right? Just because I don't know how many points the Gators are going to score. We got some positive news about Lagway returning. I think that's all nonsense. I don't think that was ever something that was going to happen. It's definitely going to be Warner. The Florida defense has been outstanding, though. They held Georgia to 6 points at halftime before Lagway went down, right? They pushed Tennessee to overtime. They held Kentucky to 309 yards after holding UCF to only 273 yards the week before that. So the defense has been playing really well, specifically over the last month. And Quinn Ewers has a top 10 turnover-worthy play rate this season, 9th in the country. 4.7% of his plays are turnover-worthy. Worse than Carson Beck, by the way. Florida has may get some extra shots, but playing against the best defense in Texas is likely to be difficult for that third-string QB. Texas is second in points per game allowed, first in total defense, first in total defensive performance, grade number 1 in PFF in overall defense, and number 1 in coverage grade. So it's not all about just the third-string quarterback playing for Florida here. It's about who he's playing against. Mm-hmm. So for that, I don't really like the side. I guess if gun to my head, I would pick the Longhorns and lay the points, but it's because I don't think Florida scores much at all. I think the under is a play in this game. That's where I would go.
48.5 for that under. I don't hate that at all. Terrell, are you picking a side here?
Yeah, give me the Longhorns.
Oh,
Lay the number.
Horns up.
Yeah, come on. Let's see it.
Yeah, horns up today.
There we go.
I guess.
There we go.
I don't really like it, but it's the fact of, like, Texas just continues to get lucky in the terms of they keep getting these backup quarterbacks or these third-string quarterbacks. This is the second season now. I remember last season they had a nice little injury bug where they were catching a bunch of backup and third-string quarterbacks, and I just can't trust a walk-on quarterback here to go up against this Texas defense and not turn the ball over and also not give them opportunities. Florida is already one of the worst teams in college football in terms of third down completion percentage, and so I really just don't expect the Florida offense to do much. I think this could look very, very similar to the OU game where that OU offense couldn't move the ball at all against that Texas front. It's just too much inexperience with a walk-on quarterback trying to get this done against Texas on the road here. So yeah, I think Texas is going to get it done. I think the under is a better play, though, because I can see the Florida defense getting up and making this a game between them and defensively, but I can also see Texas just running the score up. What I can't see at all is Florida putting up points here. Without Lagway, I just can't see them putting up points.
Yeah, he looked sharp last week. That was so sad to see him go down. And yeah, I did have the 13.5 alternate spread there on Georgia. So yeah, got lucky a little bit there, but I felt bad that I had to come at DJ Lagway's expense because the dude was balling out early in that game. But it seems like both Boggs and Terrell like this 48.5 point under here, and also leaning towards the Texas Longhorns as well. In Atlanta, the fourth-ranked Miami Hurricanes are now just 10.5 point favorites against Georgia Tech. The status of Yellow Jackets quarterback Haynes King remains unknown. Miami has no injuries to report of as of yet. BP projections, they like the Canes closer to 15-point favorites. Terrell, do you agree that there is some value on Miami?
I mean, I guess if Haynes King's not playing, the offense for Georgia Tech just looks so lost without Haynes King in the game. But I am, for one, I'm just saying, despite them covering the spread last week, and I don't know how they did, if we are sitting there and you are objectively saying you watched the game, at one point when you watched that Miami game, you thought Duke was going to win the game. There was a point.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I took Miami. I thought, man, Duke is good enough defensively to win this game if they're going to be able to put up points, but Miami's offense.
Yeah, Florida State just sucks. Okay, I'll give you Florida State. Florida State's horrible.
Yep.
But Louisville, there's a point where you thought Louisville was going to win that game. Cal, you thought they were going to win the game. Virginia Tech, you thought they were going to win the game.
Should have won the game.
Yeah, should have won the game. So there's so many opportunities where I just keep watching this Miami team and say, man, they just let teams hang around. They just let teams hang around. They just let teams hang around. Also, we have to remember what happened in this game last year. Georgia Tech gets the win outright because Mario Cristobal, the biggest coaching blunder that we might have ever seen ever. This just screams that this is also a single possession of a game at the end of the game, and Cristobal decides this time, hey, we're going to kneel it out. And we're just gonna win by a couple of short digits. We're not gonna run the ball out this time. And he learns his lesson. Give me Georgia Tech plus the points.
Okay, I like it. Boggs, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna I'm gonna stick with the Canes here. And Haynes King is questionable, as is leading rusher Jamal Haynes. Both these guys. But even if they play, they're less than 100%. And the one thing that Miami has done well this season is stop the run. Currently 8th in rushing defense in the country, also grade 8th in rushing defense on PFF. This defensive line is really, really strong here. And it's a bad matchup for Tech on defense as they are built to stop the run, and Miami passes at a 61.4% clip. Cam Ward is the number 2 rated quarterback on PFF this season. Miami's going to put up points. That's what we know. I'm not sure about the total because I don't know if those guys play. I respect the Georgia Tech defense enough to say that the total probably is not going to hit the over here at 63.5. Is that what you said, Seth? Currently. So I just don't think that this is enough points. I think that we're going to see Miami continue to put up points. They want Cam Ward to get a Heisman. It's going to bring in recruits and things like that. So I think you see them stick with the foot on the gas. Maybe not in that close situation again, Terrell, but I think if this game, if they're up by 10 points in the fourth, keep throwing. They want Cam Ward to win this Heisman. So I think they're going to win because even if those guys play, they're not going to be 100%. And I just don't think they're going to stick with Miami. And Miami's not overlooking them last year because of this year, because of what happened last year. So I've got to stick with the Canes here.
Terrell, would you stay on Tech even if there is no King in this one?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Then would you play
That is
Miami or
enough.
just staying away?
That's enough. That's enough for me to say, all right, Miami's got it. I think there's a big gap between Pyron and King right now. And King dual threat and his ability to consistently pass down the field, I think is enough to keep that Miami defense on his toes, and that's how I could see the game going over.
He's definitely their best player on offense. Not a question. Haynes King might be the best player on the team.
And Haynes. Jamal Haynes, Haynes King, that as long as he got Haynes, pretty good on offense.
We need the law firm back.
Do you guys like the under at all, 64, if there is no King as well, or do you think Miami could just run it up themselves?
Yeah, that's my problem with the total. Is I think it stays under. I do like this Georgia Tech defense here, but if they're not going to have the ball, if they're going to be 3 and out and kicking it, and, just giving Miami too many chances, I don't like the total.
Okay, and before we keep it moving, don't forget to join our college football podcast group. You can sync your picks or use the quick pick feature on the BettingPros sports betting app to get a chance to win some free prizes, elevate your betting strategy, and join the conversation today at bettingpros.com/college. We'll pick up the 3:30 slate in Oxford, where we've seen no line movement, leaving number 2 Georgia as 2.5-point favorites against number 16 Ole Miss. Georgia is a bit banged up, coming in with questionable tags on their top 3 running backs, ETN and both of the Robinsons, and then linebacker Smail Mondon also questionable. The major injury to Ole Miss though is Trey Harris, their wide receiver. He remains a game time decision, as he was last week as well. He didn't end up going, so hopefully we see him out there this week. BP projections are showing slight value on Lane Kiffin's team. What say you, Bogman?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to stick with Georgia in this game. And the talk about this game, surrounding this game, is Carson Beck and the turnovers. Right? And it's going to be a challenge for him. Ole Miss has the most sacks in the country, 44. They grade as a top 5 pass rush defense. However, we have seen UGA have success against an elite level defense on the road in Texas, right? Even with the mistakes that Carson Beck made, they still won that game going away. So we've seen Ole Miss do this before. Ole Miss got on track on offense last week, but they're running into a much tougher defense here in Georgia, and the crack showed against Arkansas in Mississippi's defense as well. So I think with those things, we have Georgia playing with some confidence here. It all comes down to Beck. And Georgia has cost me money on a couple occasions this season. And Ole Miss has won me money on a couple of occasions. Not last week, but a couple occasions this season. But I just got to take Georgia here. We've seen them win a game of this caliber on the road already this year. And I just, I don't really trust Ole Miss in a big game like this. So I'm going to take the Dogs.
Terrell, I know you like Lane Kiffin in games he circles on his calendar. This is certainly one of them, but how do you feel about them going up against Georgia, who doesn't have maybe their top 3 running backs?
Yeah, I like him by fate in him. I mean, he doesn't win these games. He hasn't beaten Alabama his entire tenure here at Ole Miss. He lost the game last year against Georgia. Like, I don't think that they have anything for this Georgia group. I think the defense is absolutely going to smother them. We've already been questionable about Ole Miss offense in the past, and, last week was the big explosion week where they just kind of kept it rolling against Arkansas. But now I think it comes back to earth playing this Georgia front, and I think they're really, really going to be taxed along the line of scrimmage on the offensive line here, and Georgia's going to be able to get the dart and keep him very, very off of his foot in terms of just being able to set and plant and be able to throw. I think we're going to see the turnovers. So I'm all over Georgia. I think this is a defensive game, and I think Georgia's going to do enough and make more plays. Is it going to be the big blowout? Probably not, because of the turnovers of a Carson Beck or something like that.
Yep.
But like you said, I'm not looking for them to cover a 2-touchdown spread here. You just got to win the game by a field goal, and I think they can 100% do that. So yeah, it's Georgia all the way. I'm sorry to Lane Kiffin, but James Franklin ruined me trusting anybody in big games ever again. So you show me who you are, I'm going to believe you. Give me Georgia all the way.
Earmuffs, Seth. Earmuffs.
I know. I will say I'm also taking Georgia here, but just on the money line, -130. I'm always the type, give me a little bit more juice, I'll drink it, because you only pay the juice if you lose, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thought process here. I don't trust Carson Beck, but I do trust this Georgia front on both sides to get it done. Let's keep things moving here. Moving to Virginia Tech, the Hokies remain 6.5-point dogs against the 19th-ranked Clemson Tigers. For Va Tech, they have 3 starters currently listed as questionable. That's quarterback Kyron Drones, running back Bashal Tutin, and cornerback Mansour Delaney. The only notable injury for Clemson, though, is Tyler Brown, wide receiver, who remains questionable. He's been banged up all season, so I have no damn clue if he's going to be out there or not. The BP projections, they give Va Tech a 58% chance of covering the spread. Do you also see value on the Hokies, Terrell?
Oh, absolutely. If as long as we get K. Drones and Tootin and all those guys playing, then yeah, we're going to be good. I think Virginia Tech's going to be able to handle and get it done here. This is a really good spot for them in terms of getting that home game against Clemson. That defense, I think, flies all over the field, and I think that's what really will throw Klubnik off, how they're able to disguise some of their coverages and be able to create some turnovers and set that Clemson offense, just be able to get them off the field on third down. Like, that's really it. Get them off the field on third down, force them into shorter drives, punting a lot, and give yourself a chance in this one. I think Virginia Tech 100% can do that. I wish this was a night game in Lane Stadium for Clemson, but, a little 3:30 tip, they're still going to be pretty rocking. They got the whole morning to be drinking all over that on campus. So I think that the Virginia Tech Hokies can get it done as long as Jones is playing. If Jones isn't playing, then I'm staying away from this, because Clemson could easily rout Virginia Tech at home here. But if Jones and Tootin are both in the lineup, that's their 2 best offensive players. I think they're enough to get it done.
Boggs, I know you were very concerned about the status of Drones and Tootin, so at this point in the week, can you make a play on this game?
Yeah, you know what? I think I like the over regardless of if those guys play or not. I think that's going to be my play in this game, and we still aren't sure, but Sklee and Malachi Thomas, those guys have a lot of experience, and they put up 455 yards and 31 points against Syracuse last week. Clemson did lose at home in embarrassing fashion last week, but they still put up yards on offense, 450. Va Tech hasn't been good against the pass recently. Last week to McCord, who has been miserable. They allowed 280 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they only got to him once. So with Clemson coming in having issues against the run, they lost defensive lineman Peter Woods against Louisville. Va Tech looking good on offense, but bad against the pass last week. My favorite play is the over. Clemson chewed up yards and didn't score, which hasn't been happening to them too much. So I think I like the over here, and I think we get a nice kick in it if Drones and Tootin play. So I kind of like the over either way.
Okay. In Bloomington, the 8th-ranked Hoosiers now stand as 13.5-point favorites over the Michigan Wolverines. Hands up, who had that on their 2024 bingo card coming in? I know Terrell did. He hates Michigan, so he might have been there. Michigan, though, in dire straits right now, honestly. They've now lost tackle Andrew Gentry for the season. Starting cornerbacks Will Johnson and Jair Hill also questionable. And as far as I can tell, IU is at full health in this one. The BP projections are telling us to stay away from this line. But I can't help myself. I want to get invested with IU, Boggs, especially now that the line is down to 13.5, and we can get it if they just cover 2 touchdowns here.
Yeah, the only thing in this game that is giving me any kind of pause is when I look at that strength of schedule for Indiana, because Indiana's undefeated.
Oh, I can't wait for this conversation. I can't wait for this conversation. Yes, please talk about the strength of schedule.
You'll like when I get to the end here, Terrell, I think. But look, it's 99th this season. Nebraska may not even be a bowl team after their loss to UCLA last week. Washington is also questionable. because they've got Penn State and Oregon left on their schedule, and I don't think they beat either one of those teams. They're going to have to beat UCLA to get into a bowl game. And, even with the big win last week against Michigan State, that team is rough. For all of Michigan's faults, their win against USC is as good as any win that Indiana has this year, I feel like. So, and the Minnesota game might be more impressive than anything the Hoosiers have done. I'm still on the Hoosiers until the wheels fall off, guys. I'm not going to back off of that. They're dominating, and I think Michigan just will never get anything on offense this season. We've seen them play musical chairs too many times to trust their offense. Indiana is too efficient. We've seen it over and over. I just do think for what I've been doing this year and how I've been picking, it would be hilarious that as soon as I jump off the Michigan bandwagon, they beat Indiana, who I've also been on the whole season. So it's one of those self-defeating prophecies, I feel like, here. But you know what? I'm not going to listen to my stupid brain. My money is going towards the Hoosiers. Indiana until the wheels fall off.
Okay. Terrell, how do you feel about it? Michigan 0-9 ATS and Indiana 9-0 ATS.
I mean, it would be the perfect storm, but how can you put money on this Michigan team? They say Michigan's strength of schedule is better, and Indiana hasn't played anybody. Indiana dog-walked a Washington team that beat Michigan.
With their backup quarterback, by the way.
Yeah,
Indiana.
Yes, UCLA, not good. Charlotte, not good. Maryland, not good. Northwestern, better, but not good. Nebraska, oh my gosh. I mean, we could talk about Nebraska all day here, losing to UCLA. But when I look at all those teams and I see Michigan and I say, Michigan actually slides right in there perfectly with all of those teams. IU is going to win this by 3 touchdowns. Like, this is going to be continually what IU does. They're going to dominate the bad teams that they've been killing all season. And then next week, we will have a discussion about what will happen with Ohio State. But right now, IU is on a mission. They've said it. They know. Kirk Cignetti has called out the entire Big Ten, and he's running through them right now. I mean, I think we're riding IU all the way until next week. So, yep, we're still going. I mean, we cannot bet Michigan. Like, you just cannot bet Michigan. Like, you
No,
cannot.
you can't.
It doesn't matter how good of a spot it looks like. You cannot bet Michigan.
They keep trying new things on offense, and they have found nothing.
They've gotten worse on offense. They can't even run the ball as well now.
What is telling us that they are all of a sudden going to start playing better on offense?
Because they covered against Michigan State. That's why.
Michigan State is miserable.
Exactly.
And Indiana just beat them by 37 points. I was a little
Michigan State was up 10-0.
10-zip.
Yeah.
They were up 10-0.
A little bit. But Aiden Childs has the most turnover-worthy plays in the country by a lot. Like, he just turns the ball over too many times. Mm-hmm. And Indiana is just so efficient. So, I think we look at this and we go roster strength, right? Michigan just won a natty. And they have good players on this team. It doesn't matter. They have put together nothing this year. How can you trust them? You can't. So, I mean, we're all positive on Indiana. Watch Michigan win by 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, there's no way
Indiana's defense is too good. They can handle a Michigan offense
too.
that can't move the football. Like, Michigan's offense, as much as you can say about their defense being good, their offense is just as good as literally anybody Indiana has played this for.
What is the out to Michigan winning? 10-7? 14-10?
Yeah.
That has to be it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Indiana's offense has been too good against everybody for them to only put up that few points. So I'm with you guys. It's Indiana. I'm going to be sick if this one doesn't hit. I will really be upset.
Start smoking those packs, boys. It's Sig Cignetti. I'm backing him with you. In Lawrence, Kansas, the number 17 Iowa State Cyclones look to respond after their first loss of the season. They are 2.5-point favorites against the 2-6 Kansas Jayhawks. No injuries to report either side as of now. BP projections do show some value on Iowa State, giving them a 56% chance to cover here. Terrell, are you going back to Rocco Becht and company to get back on the right track after that tough loss?
Well, I mean, I'm still, 6-2 ATS betting Rocco Becht this year. Yes, I am going back to him. He's a cash cow. Sometimes you get set back. And you know what? The true test of a man is how he stands when he gets back up. And Rocco Beck here and this Iowa State offense is going to be able to get rolling on the road here against Kansas. Like, this is just a down year for Kansas. I don't like how they look defensively. I don't think that the offense is ever been able to find its footing really all season. And I think that Iowa State's defense on the road here can step up, especially in a spot where, hey, all right, we took our loss. We took the loss in the Big 12. Now, if we look ahead, we have Kansas right here, Cincinnati on deck, a tough road game against Utah, and Kansas State at home. Everything is in our hands. Everything is in our hands, one game at a time. This spread is way too short. Give me Iowa State plus laying 3. I'm sorry, laying 3 here. This is way too short.
Bogman?
Man, so this game is probably the one that I lamented and gave me the most gray hairs on this this schedule, honestly. And it's weird because Kansas is 2-6. Iowa State is not a good matchup defensively as the Jayhawks run, and Iowa State has been bad against run this season. Only 129 to Texas Tech, but 354 they gave up to UCF in that near loss. Only 79 to Baylor, but 169 to Houston, 204 to Iowa. But only one of those games they lost was the Texas Tech game, and that was because the offense didn't come through. Kansas is middling defensively, statistically, and grade below average all across the board. They're 89th in defensive team performance. The game is definitely closer than the records indicate for sure, but the little things are going to matter. And when I started digging into the little things, Kansas has the edge on some of these, right? Where third down conversion, Kansas is third. Third down allowed conversion, they're both pretty bad. Red zone score percentage, Kansas is first in red zone score rate, and they're also sixth in touchdown.
Without the big Zamboni, huh?
It is, yeah. Opponent red zone percentage, Kansas is better. Turnover margins, Iowa State way better in that. Penalties, Iowa State way better in that. And but when you take a more granular look at these specific stats, they're nice for Kansas. But the red zone scoring isn't because the Jayhawks are good. It's they're 102nd in red zone attempts. Iowa State is 34th. Iowa State has only one less third down conversion, even with a way worse percentage, right? Because they hold the ball more. Even the red zone scoring percentage doesn't add up because Iowa State has allowed the fewest red zone trips this season, only 14, and only 12 scores from those red zone trips from the inside the 20. And they're fourth in big plays of 20 or plus yards. So this matchup has a lot of layers, but Terrell and I are on the same side again, which is kind of making me nervous for this weekend. I'm going to take Iowa State, and I'm going to lay the points here because while you look at some of these stats, when you take the harder look, Iowa State's just such a better team than Kansas this year. Not that Kansas can't bow up. I think this game is at Arrowhead. There's, potential.
They haven't even been playing in Lawrence all season.
It's a weird game too. Iowa State is going to bounce back and win because they have to. They have to win this game to keep up with Colorado and BYU, obviously. So they have to win this game. There's more on the line for Iowa State, way more on the line for Iowa State than Kansas.
Speaking of Colorado, in Lubbock, Texas, we have Coach Prime's 21st ranked Colorado Buffaloes, who are now 3.5-point favorites over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Tech might have got the win against the Cyclones last week, but they did not get out healthy at all, as they now have 5 starters listed as questionable, 2 starting DTs, 1 starting cornerback, 1 safety, and 1 wide receiver. Colorado coming off the bye, so they should be close to full strength here. BP projections are showing slight value on the Buffs and massive value towards the over. Where are you heading, Bogman?
Over. I'm sticking with my first thought in this game and I think when you just look at the schedule and see Colorado and Texas Tech before you even see the total, you go over. I'm going over in this game for sure. And Colorado gets to the quarterback in their defense sometimes. 7 sacks against Arizona. They held them to 7 points. 5 sacks versus UCF, only 21 points there. But Texas Tech is 14th in pass block rate. And they've only given up 14 sacks despite having a top 10 attempts per game over 41 point. It's 41.7 attempts per game for them. Texas Tech did well to keep Iowa State from scoring last week, but the issue for them is not only coverage. They still only grade 126 and 133rd statistically against the pass. They don't get to the quarterback either, and they still allowed 432 yards to Iowa State last week. I don't think that this is a Colorado walk, right? But I think they are good enough to win this one going away, and they still have a shot at the Big 12 as well. This is a very important game for them. I'll take Colorado against the spread here, but I want the over more than anything, I think, this week. I like this game to have a bunch of points.
Points.
Yeah. Shots.
Terrell, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, so Texas Tech runs that air raid, the air raid taking over here. Shout out to Mike Leach. Rest him, Mike Leach. But here we go. How do you beat the air raid? You have really, really athletic, good corners on the outside that can defend wide receivers and be able to cover. And I think they have that, of course, with, future Heisman, Travis Hunter, and then DJ McKinney on the other side. I think they're going to be really, really good in that aspect in terms of the one-on-one matchups that they get in the air raid offense, and they're going to be able to come up with some of those 50-50 balls. So with those turnovers, I think Colorado is going to be able to get this done. I like their offense. I'm with you. I think that there's going to be points. They're going to be scoring on both sides. That air raid is going to win sometimes. So I think the scoring is going to be up, but ultimately this just smells like another Colorado overtime game that they win with the late touchdown.
I hope so. That means more points.
Yeah.
Well, let's take it.
All right. And before we continue, I wanted to tell you about Fast Break Bets. If you like betting on basketball, then join host Terrell Furman Jr. on the Fast Break Bets podcast, your daily dose of basketball betting in 15 minutes or less. Tune in every day for your rapid-fire fix of all things basketball, from the W to the Association to college basketball and more. Check out the Fast Break Bets podcast on the BettingPros YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcasts. The primetime slate opens with the game that hosts College Game Day, how it should be if it weren't for freaking Fox. The 11th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide versus the 14th ranked LSU Tigers. The crowd will be buzzing in Baton Rouge. However, there should be some rain falling during this matchup. LSU relatively healthy coming off the bye. Starting offensive lineman Garrett Dellinger is out, and wide receiver CJ Daniels is questionable once again. And can you believe the down season he's having, guys? No touchdowns so far this year after 10 a year ago with Jaden Daniels. Alabama is also coming off the bye, but they did lose return man depth wide receiver Cole Adams for the season. Starting safety Keon Saab also will be out for this matchup. BP projections give Bama the slight lean, as do I. How are you officially playing this one, Boggs?
Yeah, so this one for me is nothing has really changed. I expect it to be somewhat close, but we saw Alabama play lockdown defense against Missouri. Georgia's still the only team to really have a solid passing game against them. LSU reverted right back to not being able to run against Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Their running backs were 18 rushes for 38 yards between Durham and Williams. Bama's still pretty good on defense. The secondary is the weakness for Bama. That isn't great for them against Nussmeier. He can sling it real well, obviously. He just has to avoid those turnovers like he had against Texas A&M. I like this game to either be back and forth high-scoring affair or just a lopsided Bama win. I don't think this is going to be like LSU running away with it. In either instance, I'm taking Alabama. I'm laying the points. Bama should run the ball more to keep the ball away from Nussmeier and that offense. And also, the only good thing that LSU does on defense is the pass rush. So let's just not pass the ball as much. This seems like a pretty simple game plan for Kalen DeBoer for 2 weeks to prep also. So, I think that this one is just this is a game that should be a Alabama win because they ran the ball. It's LSU at night. Brian Kelly is still undefeated there in these night games. I don't know how Terrell is going to feel about this one, but this is not going to be my favorite game of the week, but I'm going to take the Tide and lay the points.
Terrell looks like he's up to something right now and that he's about to be back in Brian Kelly. Say it ain't so, my friend. Say it ain't so.
I mean, I didn't say it. He said it. It's Brian Kelly in a late game at LSU. You look at the last 3 seasons, the home team has gotten the win outright in these games. And so I think this is another one where I'm just going to back the home team to be able to get it done here. I think that this is really it for LSU. This is their Super Bowl. This is them feeling like, hey, if we can do this, we have our shot back into the playoff. Same thing with Alabama. I think Alabama both says that, hey, they have their shot in the playoff. But ultimately, it's the fact of I have not been impressed by Alabama on the road this season. Like, they go on the road and they lose to Diego Pavia in Vanderbilt. Now, I don't blame them because Diego Pavia is an absolute dog and baller, and you should be grateful to lose to him. Absolutely. But then after all of that, they go on the road to Tennessee and they also lose that game after being up, and they probably should have won that game. And so the fact that they dropped that game to Tennessee as well, like, I just think in the SEC on the road, they just haven't proven themselves, and Alabama fans are not happy about how the season's going. I don't think the team's happy about how the season's going. I don't think it's anything that really changes here. Give me Brian Kelly in a big game at night again. Yeah, I'll take LSU plus the points.
Now, this is more like a disagreeing, fighting. I'm all about that here. Happy Valley, meanwhile, they'll be hosting the Whiteout with the 6th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions now sitting as 13-point favorites against the 5-4 Washington Huskies. BP projections are only showing value on the 46.5-point under, giving it a 69% chance to hit. Penn State does have offensive tackle Anthony Donka. He is questionable, as well as defensive end Danny Dennis Sutton. Washington has also been bit by the injury bug. They have a few players questionable, including their starting safety, their cornerback, and their edge rusher. Terrell, does Penn State get back on track under the lights in Beaver Stadium?
Oh, well, I have this one circled as the game after the game where you just absolutely put it on them and remind the boosters, hey, please forget the fact that I have not beaten Ohio State. Please forget that. Just don't even have that in your mind that I'm 1-13 now in big games. No, please don't point no attention to that. Just think about how we beat Washington by like 28 points or something like that. Like, I think that this was 100%, like, this is the bounce back angle. 100% a bounce back angle against a Washington team that's really not that good, struggles to move the football. Penn State's defense is going to smother them. We saw last week Penn State can score on defense as well. They may be able to do it on offense, but they can sure do it on defense. I like the defense to stand strong, hold Washington to under 13 points. Give me Penn State to cover the number. I like them to win big.
2 weeks in a row, they've had a pick six. Bogman, I know you liked the under this week. Do you still like it here on Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't. Washington's offense has been unimpressive this season, even in their wins. Anytime they get a test, I'm telling you, that's my recurring theme for this Washington team. Anytime you put a decent opponent in front of them, they fold like origami. Wazoo, Rutgers, Iowa, Indiana beat them. You know, they had that nice win against USC last week, but USC had 459 yards. They lost because they threw 3 interceptions, right? That is why USC lost that game, not because they couldn't move the ball against Washington, not because they couldn't score against Washington. They just didn't score. So, for me, this is the under. I just don't like this Washington offense at all. Will Rogers is not a guy for me.
I like the backup quarterback, the change of pace guy when they bring him in. I like him better than Rogers.
I mean, I just don't like anything about Washington this year. And we've seen Penn State. They're a tough team. This is one of the hardest environments to play on the road, especially at night. They're pissed off. They just lost to Ohio State. And what Terrell just said, let's go slaughter these dudes and get us some money. And by the way, you can't complain every year about losing to Ohio State when you won't put the money into the NIL to get the better players and compete with these top-level teams. You're always going to be little bro to Ohio State until you start getting that money. So, come on, Penn State, we are. Let's get some money.
I think we have more money than people are letting on, man. I know that's kind of what's going around this week.
Not Ohio State money, not Texas money,
sure.
Not Alabama money.
Sure.
It's there. You got to get it. So, they're on the doorstep of pushing over, and the new tournament is really good for a team like Penn State. They're going to make the tournament most years as long as they win the games they should. They have this year.
Yeah.
Every single game that they should win, they have, and this is another one of those games. So I do like Penn State. I would take them and lay the points, but my favorite play, again, is the under because I just don't know how many points Washington scores. 7, 10? What's the most they can score? 17, maybe?
Yeah.
But we know, yeah, I know. And Penn State is not scoring a lot either right now. Washington has been much better on defense than offense. So for that reason, give me the under in this one.
Do you think betting pros would be open to like an NIL deal with maybe Penn State? Maybe we can bring them on the podcast each week, bring a different player on, see what's going on there.
Seth's trying to get money for his alma mater right here. I like it.
I didn't graduate from there. I just lived there for a while. I worked at the university.
Okay, you worked there. I forgot that.
Yeah,
okay.
Hey, if we want to get money for IUP as well, I'm more on that game. Kirk Signetti would appreciate that as well. We'll round out the program with the Holy War, where the line has shrunk, leaving the undefeated 9th-ranked BYU Cougars as 3.5-point favorites against Utah. BYU has wide receiver Cody Epps and offensive lineman Connor Pay listed as doubtful, but leading rusher LJ Martin is good to go. That's a sigh of relief. Utah benched Isaac Wilson in the second half against Houston, and it's undetermined whether it'll be him or sophomore Brandon Rose who will get the start. BP projections are telling us not to get invested with the Cougs or the total, but my eyes, they're telling me let's keep this rolling with BYU. What do you think here, Bogman?
Yeah, I mean, look, we kind of laid it out. The offense has been the problem for Utah, right? The 4-game losing streak. At Arizona, 10 points, 364 yards. Arizona State, 19 points, 349 yards. At home against TCU, 7 points, 267 yards. And then at Houston, who might be the best defense in the Big 12, surprisingly, 14 points and only 306 yards. Does this get better after a bye week? Because what are the outs for Utah to win? They have to improve on offense, right? And we just saw BYU beat a primary rush team in UCF. They were up 34-10 against UCF going in the fourth quarter. They had 3 sacks and 2 picks. We've seen Utah play terribly on offense for the last month. I just don't think this bye week is going to help them. So BYU hasn't been held to a score below 34 points since that SMU game in week 2. So I don't know how we would back Utah here because they're at home, because it's the Holy War, maybe. I just don't like Utah at all from what I've seen. It's BYU all the way for me.
Terrell, you love this Utah team coming into the season. Are you cold off now that they're just at 500 and they're going against a top 10 team in the nation currently?
Yeah, I'm cooled off on them. I'm definitely not as high on this Utah team. I mean, Cam Rising is not there. They were really banged up in the beginning of the year. Like, I'm definitely not as pro Utah as I was in the beginning of the year. With that being said, they had a week to prepare for the Holy War. Like, have you seen? You would have to go back to the year 2000, the last time BYU covered this line on the road in this game. Like, no, this is absolutely. Utah has nothing else to play for this year. The season is over. Now.
But BYU has everything to play for, though, in this game.
But
this
what I'm
is a
saying
tournament
is,
spot for them.
after this, Utah has nothing. Like, there is nothing to play for. Maybe you make a bowl and you try to make a bowl out of this. But you have the chance for a rivalry that is renewed, for you to send this team with an L and completely mess up. I mean, they're still probably going to make the playoff, but you definitely shattered that top 4 that they are really, really sitting on right now. Hey, we're 8th in the polls, but we're top 4. We're going to move on and get a bye in the next round. All we have to do is win the Big 12, and we're there. No. Kyle Whittingham is a great coach. And I think he has something planned for Sasaki on the other side.
Why hasn't he pulled it out for the last month then?
Hey, but this is the Holy War. It's different. This is the Holy War. They're going to do it. This is the turnaround game. This is the game they turn it around. Give me Utah plus the points. I like Utah. I think they get it done. And they really, really step up in a sleepy spot. BYU, right after the college football rankings, feeling themselves. I think that they just don't create the turnovers that they normally get. Those turnovers really, really carry BYU on that defense, and it's just not a turnover-heavy game. I think that Kyle Whittingham coaches up a really great game. They protect the football. They put the ball in the end zone. That's all they need to do. They keep this game close. I can see BYU winning this by a field goal.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Minus 170 money line BYU. If you really want to drink the juice, I don't know.
No, not in the Holy War, man. Give me the points.
Okay.
Home team
all
and the
right.
points.
Fair enough. That's going to do it for us today on the Betting Pros College Football Show. Bogman, he'll be back later in the week with more best bets and his player props. Hopefully they're a little better than last week. Until then, like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel and podcast feed. Plus, download the Betting Pros app and sync your sportsbooks today. For Scott Bogman and Terrell Furman Jr., I am Seth Woolcock. Thanks for watching. Take care, y'all.